Call to order, Town of North Branford Workshop, ARPA Workshop, Town Council meeting, North Branford, Connecticut, Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. We will start with a salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Here it's cold, but it's getting colder, so I hope everyone's keeping warm. Roll call, please.
Mayor McMillan.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Zampiano.
Here.
Councilor Abelson.
Here.
Councilor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Gold.
Here.
Councilor Mace.
Here.
Councilor Palladino. And Councilor Calucci.
Here.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 2, discussion and action on ARPA funds. Hoping that we can get to a point of, or a pathway of figuring out what we're doing with these funds and can move on to the budget season. You should start out if anyone wants to start out with one particular idea or one of the departments. Michael, if you have you want to.
There's only one thing I would draw your attention to, and that's the memo that we did receive from the superintendent of schools, Scott Schumacher. They're reducing their request to you from $2 million to $1.2 million due to a reduced square footage of their proposed advanced manufacturing building.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So it's going from 10,000 square foot to 6,000 square foot after Superintendent Schoonmaker moved it, or did a walkthrough at another facility?
I think that's right.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right, we can kind of go along as it sits here in this chart and discuss this, or if there's anyone that has particular feelings towards one area or another you want to start with. And
I'd like to say something.
please.
We were granted 4.1 million. We have about 3.9 million.
About that.
No, I thought it was
Oh,
3.5.
Huh?
I thought we were down to 3.5, approximately 3.5.
My last figure was around 3. As of last meeting, when we did the minutes, we corrected it to 3.9, if I'm not mistaken.
3.2 is how.
What's it down to now?
It's 3.2. It has been since we did this.
Yeah.
This was the slideshow that I did.
3.2 million left, correct?
Correct.
Well, in any
Okay.
event, I added up all of the requests, and they're at $9 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we certainly have some work cut out for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lengthy amount. Maybe we discuss first. I think we all, or at least from what the people I spoke with, feel that the nonprofit aspect of this, we were going to talk about the portion of that. Rose, you want to maybe swing with that and talk a
Sure.
little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, in reading through the guidelines, which, thank you, Mike, for sending that to us. I know it was a long report, and I know there's a copy at our desk here. Having a pool for nonprofits is definitely a use of the ARPA funds that, when it was sent to us, it's one of the recommended uses and stuff. And so I think that we should allocate $50,000 into the pool for nonprofits. But again, we need to have the criteria and developed as to how that is going to work, how we're going to give it out to nonprofits, what nonprofits qualify for it. In the guidelines, you know, they were talking about 501c3s and one other type of nonprofits. Are we only going to do that? So there's further discussion that has to go with that. And I know Anthony had gotten some information and sent it to us as to what other towns were doing for that. So I think we should allocate it, but then we need to take the next step and develop the guidelines before we advertise and release the funds, because we have to know how we're going to disperse that and how it's going to work.
I have a question. Wasn't part of that to be for technology for the town
That's
to
different.
improve and increase technology,
If that's,
in addition to the nonprofits.
yeah, there
Yeah,
is, that's one of the other
They were
reasons.
the priorities that the ARPA funds were supposed to be for, was to improve technology for North Branford and Norford, as well as the nonprofits in North Branford and Norford,
Yeah.
before money was given to other organizations.
Yeah, it's one of the suggested uses. So I think the initial suggested use was to recuperate for the nonprofits that weren't able to hold events and fill the coffers of their budgets. So that's the original spirit of a portion of this. And then there were some suggested areas as to where the monies could be utilized. And one of those areas would be increases and advances in technology for the town infrastructure.
Does the food pantry fall under a nonprofit?
Yeah, they're a food, they're a
Okay.
nonprofit. Yes.
I think two of the other areas that, when I read the guidelines that are important are I agree that technology was out there, first responders and also the road and bridge kind of work.
Mhm.
Those, when I looked at the guidelines, those are the important areas.
Right.
So if you, just to back up, and Marie brought this to my attention actually, but on page 11, it says spending on government services, and it gives you an outline. It says construction of schools and hospitals, road building maintenance and other infrastructure, health services, general government administration, staff and administration facilities, environmental remediation, provisions of police, fire, and other public safety services, including purchasing fire trucks and police vehicles, are the ones that they indicate there on page 11.
Correct.
It's also on page 26, which encompasses public safety.
Mhm.
Also talked about water, sewer, broadband infrastructure. I
Yeah,
did
that's
see
page
that.
5.
That's
Yes.
right in the beginning.
Right.
We wanted to do with the sewer, but we certainly got an eye-opening amount.
Well, let's talk about that for a second while we bring that up. Because we seem to banter about economic development. And we have, in my opinion, a section of our town, particularly the Route 80 section from, I think it ends at Notch Hill Road maybe, either 139 or Notch Hill, but all the way down to the Guilford line, there's no sewers. So there's lots of potential properties down there for economic development. You have Fowler Road, Ciro Road, City Mission, Midway, Kelly Plaza, which I always called Giant Oak Plaza, but that's how it was when I grew up. And, down to Dependable Hydraulics, Autech, and the 3 or 4 strip malls, or strip stores or strip malls at the end of our town.
Mhm.
So if we ran sewers down there, those properties would be more interesting and valuable and attractive to economic development. And I know there's no guarantees, but that's something that we should think about.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a discussion.
I agree with Tom, okay? Is there any way, Mayor, to kind of brainstorm and prioritize numerically the value of what we're supposed to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This way would be easier to say how we're going to allocate the monies. If the first priority is technology, if the second priority is sewers, if the third priority is nonprofit, then we would know, have a better idea of how we're going to vote on allocating the money. Right now, everybody would say, okay, we got $9 million in requests, what are you gonna do? Give everybody a little bit, like birdseed, and we're not gonna satisfy the organizations.
Mhm.
So I don't know how you wanna proceed, but
I think
one way
that's,
to proceed is say, okay, what's first on the list? Is it nonprofits, or is it technology, or is it roads and sewers? I don't know, whatever you guys want to do.
well, I think that's a collective opinion. I think it's a good idea to have some type of hierarchy so that we know, what's most important to our town and we can focus our attentions towards that. Yeah, I mean, there's, as I say, several ways to skin the cat, right? There's lots of ways to go about this. You can divvy it out in small amounts and help many organizations or, maybe get smaller pockets of what they want, but you can do that, or you can utilize the whole for one project and make it a very impactful project, or you can do half and half, give out half of it to smaller projects and then use at least a sizable amount towards another larger project. There's no guidance per se as to this is the way you have to do it. It's kind of the burden of this program, and it's also the blessing of this program, that we have the ability to use this money as we desire, but there's lots of decisions. There's never going to be a shortage of need for money, I'll tell you that. We're never going to say, oh, we don't need money in this particular environment. It's always going to be there.
We're elected to lead the town for the constituents, and this is free money, and it's our job to say, okay, here's how we're going to allocate it. So, if each member wants to speak about what they feel their priorities are, that's fine, okay? I know what my priorities are, and I'm sure everybody has their priorities, and where they would like to see you go first. And then if we can come up with some kind of a consensus, then we know to say, okay, 500,000 here, 200,000 here, whatever it is, then we would know, because we're not gonna satisfy everybody. And
Yeah, I
if you
agree.
give everybody a little bit, they're gonna get upset saying, I should've got more, so I don't know, man.
Well, we can go in that direction. We can,
Well,
Go down
I
the
think
line.
we've already done that
Done
to
that.
some degree by this first sheet of paper.
correct.
I got it.
Because we took everything that was presented to us originally, and then we pared it down to this on the first page. So the purple is what was gleaned out of page 2 and 3
Correct.
on there, so we've already done some of that. And then, so I'll just start based on this first page and tell you what my items are. So, out of the first page, the items that I would hold off on and not do right now, just because we need more information or stuff. So the first one is the advanced manufacturing facility. I appreciate the fact that the superintendent has reduced this down to 1.2 million, but I think we still need a lot more information in regards to this project. This was just presented to us in December, late in December, and we had asked some questions. They're still doing research. So I would, in my opinion, I would just put a hold on that right now. The other item that I would put a hold on is the STW Williams interior repairs for $435,000. So this has to do with the window replacements, the flooring replacement, things like that. I know in talking to the building committee, we are waiting. They should be coming before the council to make their recommendation soon about the roof, as to what to do for the roof. The bids are in, they've been vetted, they're gonna come with their recommendation to the council. From what I have heard is the cost of the roof replacement, so that it's replacing as is, just a flat roof, and then they did add alternates to do pitched roof standing seam in the areas that could be done. And from what I have been told, their recommendation to the council is going to be just to do the flat roof replacement, because the standing seam pitched roof is very expensive, and it's not the whole school, and they just don't think it's worth doing that. And the money that we received from the state, which is $1.6 million, and then we also put some additional money in our CIP budget in bonding, that I would like to see how much money is left on the project after they finish the roof and all the contingencies and everything is done. And whatever is left, move this item over to the building committee and let them start using some of that money to start picking away at the items.
So
And whatever's not done, then we work it into our CIP budget after
Sure.
that.
So I'm kind of confused, because you point to this document. So what I see is, I see purple, yellow, red, some kind of gold, and green. Are
Yep.
you telling me that those colors prioritize the project we're supposed to focus on? Or are you just randomly picking out?
Well, no, the purple are the ones that we took from the yellow and the purple. That was, the yellow and the purple, or the maroon, whatever you want to call it, pink on the third page.
Salmon.
That was all presented to us initially, along with the purple on the first page.
There's a key on the first page. It looks
Right.
like they're just broken up by
Right.
category.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's referring to. So the yellow and the pink, purple, whatever you want to call it, those we kind of put the department heads came back to us, and those were not presented to us as their priorities.
So priorities are on the first page.
So the priorities were on the first page.
Correct, and then the nonprofits are below that,
Right.
which I think we're all in agreement that.
Those
there should
didn't
be a-
come from department
Yeah,
heads. Those
that's,
we had
that's
talked
going to
about.
be something that we're going to fund with this money. We just have to figure out the pool, then how it's allocated thereafter.
Right.
Okay.
So on the first page, the purple, that was the priority from the department heads when we asked the town managers to have the departments come back with their top two.
Correct.
And this is what came back to us. And then we discussed that with them. And we did not move anything from the yellow and the pink over to the purple section.
So let me ask you this here. In the purple section, it talks about fiber network installation.
Yep.
Correct.
Has that already been done, or?
No.
No, that's, Anthony had presented it to us to have a town fiber connection, so we would own the fiber to keep this,
So,
things secure amongst our.
correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not what the ARPA funds
Right,
were?
right. So that's
to?
so that's what I'm going
That should be
down.
a priority.
One of the
Right, so
things,
that's why
correct.
I'm going down the list as to what my suggestions are, and then everyone else can give theirs. So right now, I would not do the advanced manufacturing facility, and I would not do the interior repairs to STW. And I would not do the Atwater Library porch lift replacement for $250,000. I think that we need to look at that and see once how we can fix it. I think $250,000 for an elevator is a lot of money, and I think Walt had a great suggestion. I just think we need to look at it closer and see once what we can do with that. And personally, I would not allocate the $250,000 for a new elevator. And on the STW grounds improvement for $500,000, actually, that is reduced down to $450,000 because one of the items on that list is a walking path on the grounds, and she withdrew that at the commission meeting because the director did, because she is going to apply for a grant for that.
What part is that in the purple section?
The STW grounds improvement.
Okay, 500,000, okay.
Right, so it's down to $450,000 because she had $50,000 for this walking path, and she is going to apply for a grant for that. And she's applying for the grant next year. It's a grant that comes out every year. She did not have time for this year because it's due in March, and she has to work with Franny and Victor Benny. And they asked if she could just postpone it to next year because they had a lot going on.
So how much is the grant? I mean, how much is she applying for?
You can,
Is it 50, is it 100, is it
well,
150?
it depends. She needs to meet with Franny and Victor Benny to lay it out and see once. She originally had $50,000 in her proposal. It may be different based on information that she talks to them. And the grant, I think you can apply, what did she say, Steve, up to like $1 million. I mean, it's a lot of money that you can apply for. The pot changes every year.
Right.
So it just depends on how much. This year, the pot is $9 million that they're allocating, that you can apply for the grants. Next year, she doesn't know how much the pot will be, but she will apply for a grant for next year.
So
for
maybe
that.
we should reduce that even more, because she can apply for more than $50,000.
Well, that's all she had in her original proposal, was $50,000.
That was specific to the walking path.
Correct.
Proposal that they
Yeah.
had,
I
not the
understand
other
that,
things
but
that are on here.
If
But-
she can apply for more money,
Yeah, but
And we're
it,
gonna give her
but,
$450,000, and she's gonna end up getting $150,000 as a grant for a walking path. She can use that for the,
You can't deviate away and go into like relocating a pavilion or a ball field or anything like that. The grant program is set up to enhance walking paths.
that's it?
it's a
It's
grant,
a
it's
very
a program from the,
specific.
it's a program from the state.
Yeah, the state dictates that.
And so she only had $50,000 in her proposal for that.
Sure, okay.
So that's why it's
Yeah.
reduced by $50,000.
Makes sense.
Yeah, my experience on things like this is trying to knock out all the things we don't want to contribute to is more time consuming than to say, okay, where do we start? I think it's better to start at the things we want to contribute. Once we allocate the things we want to all agree to say we want to allocate the X amount, then we subtract that money from the residual, and then we have a better idea of how much money we want to give to.
Well,
Vin, you're up. Go ahead, tell us what you want to do. Go ahead, you're up.
No, I want to work on the nonprofits first,
Okay.
technology second, and road repairs or sewers third. I think that what opera was destined to was to improve those things for the majority of our constituents. Once we finalize, let's say we're going to wind up giving out $2 million to those three organizations or those three topics, then we know we have $1.something million left over to give to these other organizations that we want to. But let's take care of what opera was destined for. Technology, nonprofits, and roads and sewers. Let's work on that first. If we can come up with a consensus there, then we know how much money we have left over in the checking account to say, okay, we have X amount of money's left over, where does everybody want to go? Then everybody can cherry pick who they want to give to or help.
Remember, it's also indicative of health services, which can placate to fire department needs, police department needs, safety, public safety, fire, police, environmental remediation. So there's more to it. These you can make an argument that almost every one of these things, fall underneath those very broad guidelines. I hear what you're saying now,
Well,
but yeah, it's
we don't have $9.5 million.
no, we don't. We don't have that much.
Well,
Although
and
it's much less than
There's
that.
not $9.5 million on this front.
Yeah, and on the front page it's
No,
much
I
less
know
than that.
that, but when you add up all of them, it comes out to a little over
Right.
$9 million.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta keep in mind one thing that, at least in my opinion, we have and are spending a boatload of money.
Yeah.
High school, police station. So where do we think the taxes are headed, right?
Mhm.
So if we're true to what we keep bantering about, and I'm gonna bring it up again, economic development, maybe we can do something that maybe in the future helps our citizens.
Brings revenue.
But Tom, I agree with you.
And I don't know how to really get there,
No.
but it's.
The high school,
You know,
great for young families who look at education in the state of Connecticut, where
Yeah.
they want to move from inner cities to the suburbs.
We're going to keep it germane to ARPA, though. I mean, I appreciate
Well,
you
I was,
coming
well, he
from,
was
but
talking about that.
Okay.
And I was going to say that. Tax dollars for the high school, for the police station, and for North Branford Intermediate School are different. This is ARPA money.
no, that's not what I mean. What I mean, Vin, is our taxes are gonna go up, probably. Because of the debt we're
Debt service,
incurring,
yeah.
right? So, we have limited, commercial and industry in town, limited, and we have limited spaces. And, some of our spaces, in my opinion, are not attractive and less valuable for people to take a risk and invest money into the town. That's what I'm saying. So maybe there's something we can do to,
I agree with the sentiment.
Tom, I agree with you 100%.
There's the ability,
Upper part of Route 80 with the strip malls and everything else, vacant stores, they should be occupied.
yeah, I mean,
So that there's
what you're
tenants.
trying to do here is you have the ability, you're given a gift from the state, and you can go two routes, right? I said this earlier. Either piece it out, and it's going to hit little wins, right? But that's collectively, maybe it makes more people happy, but it will it won't really move the needle much overall. You can do half and half, or you can make one big hit that's going to hopefully, push the town in a different trajectory. I think what Tom is trying to say is we have this gift, this ability to look towards something that can be fruitful in the future. Not, anything we're doing, not everything we're doing here, but many of the things that we're going to be working on this list are going to be, essentially, they're going to be diminishing returns, right? It's an asset that's going to continue to get less and less, valuable. Maybe we look towards an appreciating asset that can help bring more revenue to the town, thus, kind of like we want to do with the market, right? You want to go into something that's going to grow versus something that's going to, continue to decline and hopefully make more
Well,
money.
I'm trying to focus.
So I'm
ahead,
going to
Bruce.
put my
Sorry.
2 cents in what I
Please.
feel is we should go for
Okay.
as far as what we should be using it for.
Yeah,
So, number one for me, honestly, is the fiber. I'm big on, that's my gig, is networking, so I'm all in for the fiber. The road infrastructure, we need to fix our roads in this town and the bridges, okay? The Stanley the grounds improvement, definitely, I'm all for. The Life Pack and the Hearst combo for the fire department,
Important.
absolutely. I'd like to add the body worn cameras for the police department,
we already did
okay, to that,
We allocated that.
if we could. So,
I thought we already
I thought
allocated
we
that.
allocated for that.
did we?
Yeah.
Because that's in yellow on
Obviously,
the
very
second page.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've already allocated that.
Okay,
in
good,
the
so if we've
prior-
allocated that, then I'm all in,
yeah.
right? And
That's very
then I'm
important.
all for the nonprofits for this town.
Absolutely.
So that's where I am, so I just wanted to move
That's fair.
forward. and-
No, it's,
So, go ahead, Walt.
Appreciate
I
that.
mean, I'm just,
Bill,
so,
what would you like to share?
Well, I'm going to say what I have to say, but I'm going to say that I'm going to have to, after I say this, I'm going to abstain from all voting, and I will not say anything more about any of these funds, and I don't want to influence or be any part of this because of what I'm about to say.
Okay.
I have to make full disclosure. I own Classic Welding, which is right on Route 80, which would benefit from the sewers going up. Everybody knows that I've been, I'm kind of very conservative, and I'm not on a lot of this bigger things we've invested on. I've tried to be conservative about it, and I know for a fact that putting sewers on Route 80 would change that whole area. I mean, I live it every day, my property's right there. And I will not say any business names or anything, but there's neighbors of mine that are being approached by places like Yale and stuff that want to put up a building.
Heard this.
But it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen without sewers. There's restaurants that can't grow without sewers. There's the auto tack place that collapsed during the storm. That's a nice piece of property there. You can't do anything. No big place is gonna go there. Nobody's gonna invest. And we have a large strip there, which includes my business, goes all the way up to North Guilford, where it'd be a ton of tax money coming into town. And it's probably one of the only areas in our town that would be a good investment, that would actually make our town money. And it's an area that's already developed. It's actually, like I said, I'm living it. It's kind of going downhill. I mean, the area that I'm in, you start going up, the chain of stores there, not looking too good, but everything's in limbo, and it's gonna be like that next year. It's gonna be like that in 5 years. It's gonna be like that in 20 years, and it's just gonna go by, and we're not gonna have sewers there, and it's just gonna stay the same, because nobody is gonna invest. So I personally think, and I've said this before, we talked amongst us here and there, I personally think, and this is coming from me, that if we even have to borrow money to match up with this money to put these sewers in, it's gonna change the town, and it's an investment that will actually pay off. All of this, not gonna pay off in the long run. In other words, I guess you can almost say we're gonna make money by doing that. None of this is gonna make us money, it's all gonna cost us money. But at the same time, like the Life Pack and all that stuff, how do we say no to that? How do we say no to the nonprofits? We have to, I get that, but this is an opportunity where maybe we take 3 million, 2.5 million, and then, believe it or not, I'm saying this, borrow money to get these sewers in, and it'll change our town.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be the last I say on this. I'm not gonna contribute any more, because I don't think it'd be right if I did, because then it wouldn't look right. So from here on in, I'm abstaining from all of this. I'm just gonna be a bystander, and that's where I'm at.
It's fair.
Thank you.
I tend to agree. If we're going to go down the line, and Vin, I will get back to you, but I want to get other people to speak
I
as
have
well.
a question, I didn't have a statement.
Good, which before I go,
From
okay.
Walt. I'm kind of naive to this construction industry. So, let's say it costs X amount of dollars to put a sewer in, but then people have to pay to tap into it, right?
Yeah, but
So when the people pay to tap into it, does that pay for the cost of the sewer?
No.
no, it's
Okay.
it doesn't. But there's not very much profit in you're not it's not a profit aspect to get someone to get into the sewer. But what it does do, it gives them access to having that facility and the ability to build. For instance, there's been a rumor, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard that there may be interest from Yale to put in a facility of urgent care or something to that capacity in that general area, but they would not consider that area, or could they consider that area with well? It's not viable. It's simply not viable to do that. So to put my 2 cents in, I do believe that there are some very viable things on this
Oh,
first
can you-
page.
Can you hold up 1 second?
Yeah.
But the charge to tap into the sewer for a resident or a business, there is some value to that.
Of course.
It just doesn't go poof in the wind. I mean, there is, it doesn't.
No,
it's
we're
not
talking
gonna-
about revenue.
Yeah, it's
And there's
not.
no
It
revenue
does
to the
create
town.
revenue.
No.
It does create revenue.
Yes,
My-
intrinsically creates
It's a
revenue. I mean,
one-time
In the
revenue.
Northbridge section of where I live, I have sewers. When I bought my house 15 years ago, I have sewer user fees, one, and then it was a one-time fee of $15,000 that I had to pay to the town, but it was paid over the course of years.
So-
That wasn't to tap into the sewers.
Right,
That
it
was
a
the
sewer
VIC.
assessment.
Yeah.
That was the
Right.
fee
Assessment
to get in. So if you want to,
But that didn't pay for the sewer.
Yeah.
no,
Which is-
well, it depends. It depends on how many people actually went on the sewers.
Yeah.
So what is it, $8 million to do it?
The minimum cost was 7.5 million,
Mm-hmm.
up
Right.
to 11 million.
Right.
The
So-
study that was done.
But there's no guarantee that we're actually going to recoup that, because there's not everybody's going to sit there and hook up to the sewers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're the bank. We're putting out $8 or $9 million.
It's hard to tell the ROI, but there's a higher probability of ROI when you're dealing with commercial than you are with residential. Residential, you can run a house, a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom home with a well and a septic.
Yes?
You cannot run a
Medical
20-room or
facility.
20 medical facility. You can't do it. It's not even possible. So it's a different, you're talking about apples and oranges. And what we're talking about here is, we have one section of this town that is industrial / commercial / slightly retail. And that's the 80 corridor, right? The part that we have sewers on now, the test study per se, has more residential on it than the other half that doesn't have sewers. You would hope that by doing a project like this, it would bolster, the interest of larger entities to come into North Branford, and then intrinsically, that would make the whole corridor, more attractive. Particularly as traffic patterns have changed, and I think 80 is going to be utilized more often, particularly with the thought that we may have, tolls again someday soon, and it's a nice, easy pathway between 91 and 95. So I think, I also lean in the direction, I've leaned in the direction the whole time of a larger project. It's not to say that we can't take a small amount of these dollars to help the nonprofits. I do believe that should happen. I think if we do a larger project with a sewer in that particular area, we still allocate X amount of dollars for the nonprofits, take care of those nonprofits, make sure that the spirit of ARPA is is still awarding that area. And then things like the Life Pack, you're not talking about huge dollars for some of these smaller tools for the fire department. We can carve out a little piece of that in order to do those type of things. So that's my piece. I'll say that I also agree with a larger project that's impactful, that will bring some revenue to this town, or the possibility of revenue and trajectory change for this particular area. Tom, I think you went
Yeah, so-
already. Rose, you've.
Well, I just want to clarify, I'm also in favor of taking care of whatever program we set up for or criteria we set up for nonprofits. I do think that they were negatively impacted, for sure.
Absolutely.
No question. And as far as, I'm also a proponent for our safety. However, with the Life Pack and the Hearst, in my opinion, we should be budgeting that. We put that in our upcoming budget and pay for that there. But that's what I think we should do. And we should do a large project.
I mean, it's relatively minimus. If you look at all in, you're at, $50,000. But yes, I can agree with that as well. Rose, do you want to add to that, or we're going to move on?
No, we'll let.
Okay.
I'll let Marie.
Marie?
I have to say from the beginning, I was for the sewers. I think I was shocked at the cost.
Yeah.
And I think, listening to people tonight, I'd like to take a second look at that. And I think we should be asking Victor to see what kind of other grants there might be out there. Maybe the state has some money that we could get us. So at first, that's what I want, and I think that's why we wanted that study, because we wanted to get an idea what it would cost. If we feel we can't do that, then I would go with what I think are important in the guidelines. I think the road infrastructure, the fiber network, the fire department should be my priorities, and of course, I totally agree that the nonprofit should be up there no matter what we do.
Yes. Ron?
So, I'm just gonna go right down the list just to follow up what Rose was talking about. I agree with her on the advanced manufacturing. I don't think, I'm not completely sold on that at this point, especially for the cost. The road infrastructure should be probably, in my mind, first and foremost, because of, I think Tom, you mentioned earlier that it potentially could impact our mill rate later on down the road if we didn't take care of that now. So I think that's a smart move. Plus, it's one of the areas identified on the final guideline that was handed out. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer for me. The bridge infrastructure falls into the same category. Stanley T. Williams interior, I agree with Rose. I think that we can put that off for now. The Stanley T. Williams grounds improvements. Honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I could really go either way on that right now. The Atwater Library porch lift. Mike, I had asked them when they were here to try to get a price on a new, updated lift instead of an elevator.
Yeah.
Did they get back to you on that?
Right, no, I don't have an updated, but I'll check in with them on
And
that.
then Walter, after the meeting, brought up during the meeting, brought up a great idea of a potential ramp in there, which would have no maintenance cost to it if there's room and it's feasible. So I think that's also something that and Rose alluded to that earlier, I think that's also something that's worth exploring. The trail access to Atwater Library, I'm not in favor of. I'd rather see that $10,000 added on to the nonprofit pool, if anything. The fiber network, I like the idea of it. I think it makes sense, and with the way technology and everything's going, the only thing is with that one and the door access system, the next one is we're gonna start incurring monthly bills for these projects. So I'd just be curious to see how everybody else feels about that. But I do think that's the direction that we need to go in. The door access systems, I think makes sense as well. But again, there is a monthly expense with that. The Life Pack and Hearst tools, 100% behind those. The nonprofit pool, absolutely. I actually think I think 50,000 is a good starting point. I worry that we'll go through that fairly quickly. So I would even be open to suggestions to maybe bump that up after some of these more important projects are looked at. If we do have money that's left over at the end, I wouldn't be opposed to bumping that number up. The Little Red Schoolhouse, I'd be in favor of. And then, Mike, the gas connection is still at 1 million plus?
Yeah, that's the last information that we have on it.
I won't go any further than that for right now, but that's kind of where I am with all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion so that we can at least start the discussion and whatever.
Mhm.
So I would like to make a motion to allocate $500,000 to the road infrastructure package, $500,000 to the bridge infrastructure package, $385,000 for the fiber network installation, $30,000 for the door access system, $36,000 for Light Pack 15, $14,000 for the Hearst combo tool, $50,000 for the nonprofit pool, and $10,000 to the Little Red Schoolhouse renovation.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, just a second.
So that comes to 1.535.
I'm adding it up now.
Just done that for you.
$1.5 million, Rose?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Did you want to add any?
No, I just want to, because I had all of my notes too. I was at 1.5 million and she's at 1.5 million, so we're in the ballpark. I'm good.
Okay. So, let's make sure I have my numbers correct as well. We're at 3.2 left, correct, Michael?
3.2, correct.
So it's roughly 1.7 left. So I picked those items because that's, I think, the consensus of when we were all talking, those were our priorities. So I put them all into one motion. And then after we vote on that, then I'll go from there.
So Rose, so I have 500K, 500K, 385K, 30K, 36K, 14K, 50K, and 10K, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You didn't want to put the 450 of the Stanley T?
I'll come back to that. I just want, because I think we were, based on our discussion, everyone kind of agreed on those items.
Yep.
Well, I didn't really agree on those, but
Was that motion seconded yet?
Yes,
Yes.
Ron did. Right.
So we have 1.665 left after, if you were to fund those particular projects. So this is essentially, if we were to still have that 1.6 left, you've basically halved the dollar. So now we're looking at, if we approve this, if we still want to do a large project, we're going to put, let's just say it's an $8 million project, you're looking at like a 20% discount on that project. Is it feasible to do both? I don't know the scale of that project. I do think that it's a viable project to look at, and it's something to consider.
Well,
But I also like what we have here.
well, either way, we are going to have, if we move ahead with the sewer project, we do not have enough money for it, and we're going to
Correct.
have to bond
Correct.
money for it.
Correct.
The other aspect of it is, I know it, and I totally agree with it, economic development, that is basically our only corridor for economic development in this town is the Route 80 corridor. And I know at the last council meeting, approval was given for an assistant town manager, and one of the roles of that assistant town manager is economic development. And so I think that would be a priority with the person, whoever is hired, to work with Victor Benny, and just to get us more information. So this money has to, according to the packet, has to be allocated by December 31st of 2024 and spent by December 31st of 2026.
Correct.
So I think we have a little bit of time on what's left. I mean, whatever remains in the ARPA funds. And whether, you know, it's half, I don't agree with giving all the $3.2 million. I don't agree with giving all of that. I would definitely look at the project again, and maybe we can do it in a phased project, whatever, you know, and that, those are all things that we would have to look at, because once you get up Route 80 a little bit, it becomes more residential, and really, would that benefit? I mean, are those people going to hook up or not? I have no idea. I mean, those are all questions that would, you know, have to be answered on
So
there.
can we send out, like a survey?
Well, I think that would be something that, in the position, the, you know, the EDC, that we actually have someone working with economic development, that would be part of gathering information for us.
Also, isn't Route 80 a state road?
It
Yes,
is,
it is.
yeah.
So,
Doesn't mean we can't put sewers.
No, that's not where I'm going, because it's a state road. Wouldn't the state assist, like grants money?
so I'm wondering, out there,
for
there are
that?
grants out there.
Well, it's something we would have
Because it
to,
is a state
we have to
road,
look into.
right?
Yeah. Well, they don't believe that works like that, but,
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
mean,
asking. I mean, it's a good question.
all right, then-
No?
I thought the ARPA funds had three priorities: nonprofits, technology, and roads and stuff. What Rose's motion does, it's 2/3 of that. So the majority of it's more than 50%, hitting 2/3 of the priority. We should definitely support this part and then work on Walt's and Tom's problems with the Route 80 corridor later to see if there's something else we could do. But we're never going to cover the $7 million with the
Right.
ARPA funds. to
no,
do
we
that.
already know that. It's
But at
not
least with
possible.
Rose's motion, we covered
Numbers.
2/3 of what the federal funds, the ARPA money was designed to do. So let's do that and satisfy 2/3 of our constituents as opposed to the others. So I support
Well,
that.
well, I don't think, and I'm not going to speak for Tom and Walt, but, you know, Walt has already said that he's, you know, just sitting back, he's not going to vote, and that's fine. And it's not that Tom is against the projects, but I totally understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
not against
Right.
anything, it's just,
Right, we need to look at it.
you know, I see, you know, we have, you know, the original guidelines, and then we actually voted to
Right.
broaden the horizon, the
Correct.
guidelines, so that we weren't, you know, in a predicament. But in the meantime, it's unfortunate, we've kind of let things start to slip away. You know, 900 and whatever thousand we spent already, and now we're doing what we thought we wouldn't do. And it's a little bit concerning. However, I do understand, you know, the process, and I do understand the needs and so forth. But, you know, we do also, again, I use the term banter around about economic development, but we have to be true to what we say, in my opinion, because it's good for the future of the town, the economic development. You know, it's important to me. It's, you know, I'm not saying these aren't important, because these are also important, I get it. But economic development, you know, we have to start to take some of the tax burden, hopefully, off the residential portion, because Anthony, what's our percentage of residential?
80/20.
80/20?
Probably.
You know,
One thing, I think, one point I want to bring up, unrelated to Tom's comment, I think Dale Guilford is on septic. There's no sewers in the town of Guilford. So I think if we say that they won't come unless there's sewers, I think we should investigate that, because I'm pretty
Okay.
confident
That's good to
town
know.
of Guilford has no municipal
yeah,
sewers.
and you're probably right, and there's always ways to engineer around, but that's costs more dollars, and if they can move somewhere else,
Good to know.
you know, companies or health facilities, they can move somewhere else that's less costly to them, it's more attractive. That's why we we want to be true to economic development. We have to pitch in a little bit, in my opinion, meaning we have to make it attractive for places to come here, because we're not, hang on a second. We don't have a direct link to a highway, for instance, so we have to make it attractive for people to come to us.
Tom, if I could ease your pain and Walt's pain. I've been in town 38 years. In the 38 years, there have been at least 19 town councils before us that could have addressed this issue over the decades, all right? So don't feel guilty as if you and Walt are letting somebody down because of this here, because there were many politicians before us who came that, whether they could or they didn't or they ignored it, I don't know. And I feel bad for that there, but we can't solve the problems of the past today.
No, but we have.
So don't feel bad.
No. However, I've also talked in a similar frame about, what our town would look like someday, right? But we also have to take the first step in,
Yeah.
right? We have to take the first initiative. Somebody's got to do it. Just like, that area that someday might be some sort of a center. It'll never be a Madison, or a Guilford Center, or a Branford Center, because we're not set up like that. However, we could eventually have something over in that Auger Field area someday, as long as we take a step in, right?
Yeah, we gotta figure out
Take a step in.
what we wanna do.
Same thing with economic development. So we as a body, we have the ability to lead, right? That's what we're put here for. And that's all I'm saying. And just expressing my opinion, and,
I'm going to give Ron the floor.
don't make me grab that gavel.
I don't have a problem spending money to put a sewer in, that doesn't bother me.
So-
Ron, go ahead.
So you might all remember, I was definitely one of the driving forces behind the sewer thing. That was always a big thing, because I could drive by it every day, and I hate the way it was. But I also agree with some of the other sentiments that, it's an EDC thing. And I feel like, why are we now dealing with this? Why was this not on the top of the EDC's list? And why did they not deal with it previously? And I also think we're muddying the waters with the ARPA funds by talking about this. I personally think that the best way to deal with this is to get the new person in who's going to, be in charge of the EDC or take on that responsibility anyhow out of town hall. Bring it to the EDC, have them put a committee together, have them research grant money and stuff like that, and see what's out there first. I mean, basically, if we threw any of our leftover money, or what potentially would be leftover money at that right now, it'd be like spitting on a fire. It's not going to amount to much with that project. Do I think it's a worthwhile project? 1,000%. But I think, it needs more time to be looked at, and I think that there should be probably a committee put together, like I said, looking at grant money, looking at, other options. But, I'm just disappointed that, this wasn't an issue that was taken on by the EDC, because once you start talking about it, everybody pretty much seems to be in agreement that we need to do something with Route 80. And since I've been sitting here, I haven't seen a whole lot done to try to help that. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Call for the question. Let's vote.
Sorry.
Let's vote on Rose Angelotti's motion now.
Is there any other discussion?
No, you better call.
He called.
Yeah, you called.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote?
Mayor McMillan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Zampiano?
Yes.
Counselor Wilson?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Gold?
Abstain?
Counselor Mace?
Yes.
And Counselor Palacio?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. So we've allocated those dollars. You have them stipulated, written down in the okay, great.
Okay, so
So we-
I'd like to make another motion.
Okay.
For one other item on the list here, and that's the STW grounds improvement. Part of the ARPA money also, by us broadening the spectrum, is, to provide items or areas for the public so that, outdoor type of venues or things that if, the pandemic or anything, any health concern, it makes it more viable for people to still, it could fall into an array of areas, mental health. I mean, there's all kinds of areas that you could bring into it. So I would like to make a motion on the grounds improvement instead of the $450,000 that was originally proposed. So the way that breaks down is $250,000 for a pavilion and moving of the, one of the Little League fields, and the other $200,000 for a playground. So I would like to make a motion to allocate $250,000 for the pavilion, and the field has to be moved because of the pavilion, because of the location. And I think we can look at the playground during the budget time and see if we can do something in CIP or whatever to allocate some funds to get a playground in there. Because they do have access right now. A lot of it is for the summer camp program, and they do have access to use part of the playground at TVES. Yes, it would be better if there was one there, but it's not like they don't have any access to a playground.
We'll put that into discussion, but what's your motion?
So my motion is to allocate $250,000 for the STW Williams ground improvement.
Okay,
Second.
second motion, okay. So any discussion? I'll actually start if you mind.
I have questions.
I'll give you a moment. So I tend to be one that agrees with that building out and recreation for this town. I think it's one of the reasons why people will move to a town, which again, will help with revenue, and even though it's coming from residents, but we want to hopefully bring youthful families into this community to continue its growth. Stanley T. Williams is an interesting area because it has land. It has an area that can almost have we always talk about a center, and an old New England center. Northford itself has that old New England center. We had an opportunity, probably maybe 20 or 25 years back, when the state came in and was going to put a traffic circle in the center of Northford and almost make that really feel like a center of town, and change kind of the path there. We didn't do it. I don't know why. I just remember it when I was younger. But if we're going to spend money at STW to make it a recreational center, why don't we really spend money there and start to build it out so that it can be used for more than what it's going to be used for? Not just another, we tend to just plop things in certain spots. Put a pavilion there, we put a swing set here, we put another building over here, we have a town hall in a great revenue generating area. That's another idea to consider, and maybe putting a little bit more money into that area. And if we don't have the appetite to put the center of town over in that Augur environment, much like a Guilford, where Guilford has their town center, and then they have their area where they put the Guilford Fair. Maybe that's another way to look at things. I know it doesn't necessarily, it's not as easy for the North Branford side to access that, but again, a lot of towns have that. There's North Guilford, and everything's down in the south end of Guilford. So maybe we look towards a little bit more than a $250,000 expenditure just to put a couple more things on a piece of land, and we start to develop that piece of land a little bit more to
Do you have
be.
some specifics about what you would add?
I think I would probably incorporate that back soccer field that doesn't get utilized, and that back, I guess it's considered a T-ball field.
Well, that's
yeah,
the field that has to get moved.
Yeah, when we moved, yeah.
Your kids played on that? Have your kids ever played on that?
Yeah.
When it rains?
I
It's
coached
underwater.
on it. Yeah, it's
It
rough.
goes underwater. That's number one. Number two, there used to be the,
We'll come back in a minute.
okay.
But yeah, I understand that part of working on a piece of property is realizing some of its
Mr.
limitations.
Mayor, just one quick question, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're talking about the field in the back, or we're talking about the field up front by the road?
I think from
I
what we
always
were
thought- I always
presenting,
thought it was the one up front.
that's what I also thought as well. So I thought that they were looking towards the, I guess you'd consider that 17 and then around. So pickleball courts, baseball. Back in the day, there used to be a nice little playground there that my brother broke his arm on. And then there was the baseball field and then kind of that wooded area. I guess you consider that, would that be west of 20 or 17? And then behind that, I'm considering, if you're going to spend a little bit more money, opening it up, making it into more of a recreational spot, a larger area, you start to work on that back soccer field where the, that area is, and then up into the, we own all that land. I mean, there was the idea of possibly putting a tower there at one point. Well, there's the ability, we
Well, that's
obviously own that land.
TDS.
So
That's
does-
behind TDS.
Yeah, do we have the ability to, is there any other lands over there? I'm asking, I don't know the,
Well, okay, so I'm just going to defer a minute to the chair of the Commission for Park and Rec, just so that we can get an idea of, so the pickleball courts, and then the pavilion, and then you just move a little bit, and there's the field.
2 fields.
Okay,
There's the unfenced-in field, and then if you remember, Alton Field used to have basically the dilapidated playscape that we
Yeah.
let down during COVID. That's just gonna be flipped. So the outfield, in theory, which no one would ever hit a baseball that far, but would be where the pavilion's gonna go, in between pickleball and the fenced-in Little League field.
So Steve, that brings me to my second question I had. So we wouldn't be losing a field, we would just be relocating, like flipping it over to the other side kind of?
Yep, just 180.
Roger, okay, that's good.
right. And so the whole idea for the pavilion is there's, as Jessie explained when she talked about it, is we have no spot for our seniors or the summer camp program. And that's why she also had incorporated the walking trail along there, because right now they bus the seniors someplace else so that they can walk, because there's no place to walk except in the parking lot at STW. So this is a way to start enhancing that area and doing something so that we utilize it both for the seniors and for our camp program. And then also, the pickleball courts, let me tell you, since we put those in, I mean, in 30-degree weather, they're playing out there at night on there. Those courts are used a lot. And it's just, I mean, it is going to be an area that, that people come, and with the baseball, Little League, using it, with the pavilion, they will have an area now that, that they can use. And also, I did talk to Franny Marola. He does have to put a sidewalk in between the parking lot and going down to the along that fence line that goes to the back area where the pavilion's gonna go. He needs to put a sidewalk in there and a ramp down there because of the lay of it. So he would like to incorporate the sidewalk going to the pavilion, and he also wants to run the conduit to put electricity in the pavilion so that, it can be used more than just during the daytime hours if people want to rent it out, that type of thing. The pavilion's like at the other parks that can be rented. And as far as the time frame with all of this, I talked to both Franny and to Jessie, the director of Park and Rec, because we all know that Franny's department has a lot of stuff on their plate, between his building, the police department, moving the roads, the roads and everything else. And Jessie has already talked to them. She is not relying a lot on Public Works to do a lot of this work. There's certain things that Franny said that he could do, but they would coordinate this and work on this. And, if the pavilion is this fall, if that's what works into Franny's schedule to do whatever he has to do, that's fine. She's not anticipating that the pavilion would be ready for the summer session, for summer camp or whatever. This gives Little League ample time to move the field. They can do their spring session if it's this fall, if it's next spring, it's okay. I mean, she's fine with that, and she's
Rose,
working.
is that ramp, sidewalk, and electricity, is that in the 250, or is that additional?
That, the sidewalk area probably can be done within the budget that she had in there for the field, the relocation of the field, because that is rather minimal for that. But she was also, we had talked, and I said, she's going to have to, she has to do all the legwork as far as talking to the building official, seeing what kind of permits are needed, what kind of drawings, whatever, to lay this out. So this gives them ample time to do that, and also to work with Franny and to schedule it in to see exactly how much.
I just want to make sure if we're going
Yeah.
to vote on this,
I was gonna
that
ask that too.
the 250, the 250 includes everything, basically, or whether, that there's enough money for that. So that's why I was wondering if all that stuff is included in the 250 or not.
I mean, she thought so, but I mean, until they, she has the price of the building, and whether that is locked in, I mean, because she had this price, I believe, from 6 months ago. I mean, she did build in some escalation costs in her numbers. So,
Well, what if Franny wants to put lighting and stuff like that, why wouldn't we consider adding some additional money to that, so that if you're gonna do it, let's do it right the first time, and not have to take more money out of the budget, but add some money now.
Yeah, we
And,
went
and
from-
and I do agree, you talk to Franny, he's overwhelmed, so maybe this is a time where we add something so that it can be done all at once correctly, and not have to add on later on.
But it doesn't,
That's
it
what I
can't
would think.
include the jungle gyms, the playground, because that was taken out, there was a playground there, and it was taken out by the Board of Education. I believe that the Board of Education should replace it. They took it out, they should put it back, and that should be in their budget.
well, part of that whole park area, I believe, it was a insurance issue for us, because it couldn't be repaired, and it became a liability.
Yeah, there was nothing good about it to salvage.
They still have the one in the back, though, right?
No.
The playscape in the back's gone too?
That's gone as well.
As far as the Board of Ed, at the left side and the right side of
TV,
Tucket Valley, there's playscapes. But there's nothing designated in between the two baseball fields and the pickleball courts, if you call it that. Those were removed during COVID.
and a lot of that
Right, but
was,
the one, if you're going back on the left side of the building,
that might be for the preschool. Is there something?
there's one
Yeah,
back
we
there,
don't
right?
have, we're not allowed to use it.
We don't have access.
I shouldn't
to
say
that.
we. Park and Rec can't use it. That's for Board of Ed for the
The preschool
I don't know
program.
what it's called, a program that they have.
Mhm.
And then you said there's another one on the other side?
There's one on the same left side of TVES behind that soccer field.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's just for the
That's for the school.
And then they had, last I was there,
There's one on the other
Just
side
built
there's
too.
one on the other side. I don't think it's as grand as any of.
No, they've made improvements to that side, so
So we want to
that's,
spend $200,000 for a fourth playscape on that property?
No, but
It-
So
no.
there are two separate.
The issue on this conversation, if you don't mind me interjecting, is basically, we are given Park and Recreation's given kind of a time slot during kids' camp that they get to use the Board of Ed's playscape because Board of Ed is running their own camp. Additionally, now, the after-school program is now housed at the Park and Recreation building. So there's not enough staff and/or, because when school gets out, et cetera, they're walking right over, they can't use those two playscapes at TVS currently with the after-school program that's now been moved in under, I believe it's under Park and Recreation with the assistance of the Board of Ed. To be used in the summer and currently all school year. And it would save us a little bit of money in the long run by hiring more people to oversee the walk to Tucket Valley to go. And we could have programming, and remember, like Councilwoman Angeloni said, there's pickleball, hockey, bocce, two baseball fields, but there's nowhere for those kids that aren't playing any of those sports to play. So
Mr. Mace?
I'm trying to figure out, Rose Angeloni said 250,000 or 200,000, but yet in here it says 500,000.
Right, because
450.
Huh?
450, we amended it.
So it was amended to 450. So Mayor, as you were speaking, I don't know whether you were speaking for the motion, against the motion, or just commenting.
I'm commenting
Okay, that's all.
on maybe utilizing, I personally feel that we should do something more there if we're going to spend money there.
you can,
But that's just my comment.
I'll amend the motion for the whole 450 so that we can do the playscape if that's.
Hold on there.
Well, based on, you know, the whole sewer talk on the
Yeah.
first motion, I was trying to save more money,
Well,
and then in
at this
case.
point, we're not really saving money.
I'm just trying.
Listen, I got a
The train left the
question.
track.
Are we gonna hit the baseball at the pavilion now? Is that what I'm hearing?
no, the demographics for what uses that field is, I think they'd be signing a contract at 5 years old. Big leagues and big
It could happen. We'll have to name them after that, yeah.
They'll put a little
Sorry,
mini
Vin, I didn't mean
monster
to
over
interrupt
there.
you.
Okay.
I'm having a hard time trying to digest this because the Stanley T. Williams Senior Center, and the seniors aren't going to be playing ball on those fields.
Like,
There's pavilions in Northford. I think by using the senior center as a guise or mask to improve this thing, where it should be part of the Park and Recreation Department's budget, to come into us during the budget season to say that they want to do it. I can't support this using the ARPA funds for this program. I just don't believe that that's what the ARPA funds were for. So I speak against the motion because it says Parks, Recreation, and Senior Center. That's 3 items. Parks and Recreation, that's 2/3 of the item. That's the majority of it. It should come under Parks and Recreation when they come in with their budget this upcoming season to say that what they want to do with that field, and we shouldn't be using ARPA funds for Fermiola to pour a concrete sidewalk, to build a pavilion, and to relocate the fields. It's not for the majority of the constituents of North Branford and Norfolk. I can't support using $250,000 or $450,000 to do that. I'm sorry. I don't think it's in the best interest of 11,000 or 12,000 citizens of North Branford and Norfolk to do. And I know it's a good motion, Rose, but I can't support it based on that.
Fine.
Certainly your opinion. Any other opinions?
I gave you mine. I don't want a new, 250,000 is fine. I don't think we should give any more. If they want, and they come up with a plan to use the other $200,000, come back to us.
Well, I mean, they have plans. They have plans for the playground to
It's
go in their
$200,000
way.
is a lot of money for a playground.
Well, it is, but that's how much they cost right now. That's the playground, and also, you know, you have to put all the ground, whether it's mulch or you go to
I know,
the ones
I get
that, you know.
Yeah, we also don't have to spend every dollar tonight.
Right.
There's plenty of time left. Now that we've already pieced out some of this, we can,
How big is this pavilion? Because I just keep asking myself, like, $250,000 is, you could build a house for $250,000. That's
Where?
a lot of
What,
money.
a tiny house?
You can build a house for $250.
House with no land, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But it just, it does seem like, it seems like a big number
one strong.
for a pavilion. How
Um,
long ago did we get the quote on it?
I,
She got it, I'm looking for the email. There was a follow-up on the,
let me see when he said it.
it was off, I don't want to speak for anybody, but my understanding was off other conversations that what if the Public Works wasn't able to do 80% of the site work and build some of it. This is start to finish, they're in and out. It's a little larger than North Branford, North Farms Park. But just to go back to Council Mace's comments, most of this was generated by our commission with the support of the director because of what COVID did to the community was get out, they need to get out. There's still this public perception of fear. The seniors and the children don't want to
In large crowd.
mingle, if you will, with the just the way we're going this day and age, and people were still very fearful of COVID, et cetera. And when COVID was a major player, we were doing a lot of clinics, vaccination clinics, testing, giving out handouts. There was nowhere for anywhere else to go. That's where this grew traction, if you will. Was this pavilion and this playscape is more to also open up the building. God forbid something like this happens, there's a public hub where we're not eliminating programming, we're not eliminating activities, we're still being viable and very relative in the community to provide one-stop shop, if you will, at one site.
Can I respond to that?
Please.
On the North Branford side, they have North Farms, and they have Jerome Harrison as a playground as well, right? With all the tools and everything else. Northford has the soccer fields, they have the softball field up there by the restaurant that closed up, the pizza parlor. They have a playground up there too, with a pavilion, with charcoal pits and everything else. Adding another playground to Northford does not value the property or anything else. There's already a playground in Northford, in Upper Northford, up in Middletown Avenue, which is not that far from the center of Northford. North Branford has 2 playgrounds already. I just don't think using the ARPA funds to put in another playground benefits the entire community.
I understand.
It just doesn't. I can't be convinced of that.
So,
Deputy Mayor?
yeah, so as we went around, I heard some comment, I think it might have been you, Jeff, about town center, maybe we build something over in the Stanley T area as some addition to that, gathering areas. But here's the problem that I see, and it's the problem that we've had for I want to say ever, but it hasn't been ever, but it's been a long, long time, is that we don't have a plan. We don't have a plan. We can't look at the board and say, this is a conceptual 3D drawing of our town center. It doesn't have to be the exact thing we're gonna do, but it's a visual conception that we can have, any of the townspeople can have, they can walk to the town hall and they can see it. We don't have that. Again, whether we like it or not, we're dropping things. Put one here, 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 put one here. And then what do we have? We have a mishmash of what? So I think we're really missing to have a plan. We need plans, and then we talk about, we want a pavilion for possibly COVID reasons. Well, we're gonna gather everybody under the pavilion, with or without masks. That's one, right? I mean, we need a plan. We need a real solid plan.
To adopt a plan.
Right, adopt it and then
And then
adopt it.
follow,
And-
taking steps
right.
towards that plan.
Exactly, and they don't have to, and as time goes by, someday we might not be here, right? But here's the plan, we adjusted the plan, but there's still a plan. Everything doesn't have to be exact, but there's a plan, there's a concept. But we don't have that. And I truly do think we're missing that, and it would make more sense to us.
Then I'll address that, Tom. I'll make a motion to table Rose's motion until we can come in with a plan in the near future to address these situations instead of spotting what to do. And we'll table Rose's motion to spend the money at Stanley T. Williams Parks and Recreation Senior Center until we do that there within the next 60 days. How's that, Tom?
Well, okay, so there was money in this year's budget, in our CIP, $25,000 for Park and Recs.
Is that a second on my motion?
No, I'm explaining this.
Oh,
So,
We should see if there's a second before we go into discussion. I believe that's
Okay.
just, we have to, so I appreciate you coming from.
okay, I'll make a second.
Yeah. Okay, the second.
Can we
So
have
we
two
can just-
motions
Yeah, we
floating?
have two motions.
Well, we have two motions.
He's moved to
It's motion
table
Motion to
per
table.
motion.
Motion to
Trumps
table.
the
Okay.
regular
Oh.
motion.
Yeah.
Correct.
And there's no discussion on the motion to table, just vote yes or no to table it until, it says 60 days.
Well,
That's correct.
uh,
Robert's Rules of Order.
okay, I withdraw the second.
Ah,
All right, so we have a motion to
To
table.
but-
So I just want to explain the whole thing about the plan, okay? So there's $25,000 in the CIP budget for this year for Park and Rec to go out and do this plan, so that we could look at all of the parks in town, all of the areas, Stanley T, Augur, all over town. Does not include any of the school fields, okay?
Mhm.
They did go out to bid, and the cheapest bid that came in was $70,000. So they don't have enough money to do this plan
We can
that we have.
allocate some ARPA money.
Well,
So-
shouldn't part of the plan be a department head plan? Why do we have to get a consultant to tell us what to do?
Because both Franny and the director of Park and Recs feel that they are not qualified to go through and to lay all of this out and have a plan. And they both discussed this during our
But they're
budget.
right, so, but they're qualified to drop pieces of buildings in areas. That's what I'm saying, it's like, well,
Well, so,
Disjointed.
yeah.
I don't know that that's,
I'm not opposed to,
I don't know that that's fair to do to our department heads. I get where you're coming from, Tom.
but they're not landscape
But you don't want to
architects.
put, you don't want, I'm thinking of more as a team environment, especially from Mike's perspective. You don't want to put them at odds with each other either as to how to do things and stuff like that. I think if you had a bigger plan put in place that was voted on by us or, and the town manager supported it, then kind of everybody knew that that was, the plan. And I would certainly support that, and everybody's making good points along that path. The only thing I'll say about the pavilion is, I do think, I just did some quick research online, I do think it's overpriced, but I do think that in that area, it would serve a purpose for the camps, and it would serve a purpose for the elderly people, especially in the summertime, to get out of the sun and stuff like that. I don't know that necessarily by putting that there, you would be doing anything wildly out of order as to what that larger plan may encompass. I don't know that the two would necessarily be tied together, but I do support, so I guess I kind of support both. But I would like to look at that. That just seems like a lot of money.
You could definitely take drawings of all the recreational areas and lay them out on all these tables here, and you could have a general idea of what you want to do. You can just sketch things in. It's not rocket science.
No, but
Aren't
the
you
issue.
talking about a plan for the whole town, though? Aren't you talking about,
Well,
you're not
yes,
talking just Park and Rec, aren't you talking the
Yeah,
town?
yes,
Which is more
yes,
than
yes,
fair.
yes and no.
Yeah.
However, if for my department, I'd have all these sketches on the table. And I'd be laying out what's in my mind, and I'd be going to my boss, and I'd say, what do you think of this? This is what I think. This is how we're gonna do this. Boom, 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 boom. We're gonna bring people in over here. We're gonna do this over here. We're gonna do this over here. That's what I'm talking about.
But the problem becomes on our existing parks, Northford Parks, the softball field that's up there needs major renovations to it. The irrigation at some of the fields needs major, and so you go through it and do you want, is it worth it to spend that kind of money in that area, or do you move them someplace? I mean, that's what happens in
Well, a
these
plan would
studies.
figure that out.
Correct.
That's what we need.
It's not so much saying, okay, we're gonna move the soccer field here and we're gonna fix all this stuff. And then there's the whole issue of lights going on. I mean, we just found out, I was amazed at when Park and Rec just did their budget. The lights that we just put in on the pickleball courts, those are LED lights. And what it cost a month to run those, cheap, it's Wallingford Electric, versus Wallingford Electric, the lights down at the field by Public Works is like $1,000 a month because they're the old, the old style lights. So then do you upgrade those lights? Do you put, even Wall Field, and that's Wallingford Electric.
You could do that if you had revenue coming into the town.
Right. I mean, so that's what the study looks at, and when they lay things out, and, I mean, because those are items that are listed in yellow on our sheet here that they've looked at, but the question becomes, are you going to spend all of that money without a plan? And so that's why they asked for the money to do the plan, and when the bids came in, it was way too expensive.
So the $250,000 that we want to spend for the Park and Rec is an upgrade for that area. It's for the elderly, it's for the children, okay? Even, I know they want to put lights there, they want to do a pavilion, but it's, for me, it's an upgrade for them. And the elderly and the children, they need the pavilion for the summertime when they're out there. We've had kids, my kids went to the FRC in the summertime out there 20 years ago, right? They were sweating. There was no place for them to go. So, listen, I'm good at it. I just can't spend $200,000 for a playscape. Sorry. So, I agree with the 250. That's how I feel. So.
I'd like to know how many elderly really participate in the senior center. And if there's a pavilion out there, number one, if it's too hot, they're not going out.
So,
They're gonna sit
have you
there,
been there when they serve something?
Yes, I have been there.
Okay.
There's nice.
There's usually 7 or 8 senior centers.
Our senior center enjoys a,
7 or 8.
no, that's not accurate.
My
Our
God,
senior
there's
center
like,
enjoys a
I've been
great
at events there, they have like
representation of
80 of them.
It's a very nice group of people. Our seniors are fantastic. They put a lot of effort into this town, during their days
But
here,
I
and
did
they do
offer
enjoy that.
Tom a resolution to table Rose's motion for 60 days, so we can come in with a better plan and convince people.
60 days won't get you the plan. We don't have the money to do the plan. They already got the quotes and they collapsed it.
Well, they could rely on the Director of Department of Parks and Recreations to come in with some kind of a plan to say, okay, these are the, and I think Tom is right. We don't want them to be experts, but they have to know their departments, and they have to know their fields, which are in worse shape than others that are in better shape.
All right, so-
How many jungle gyms in North Branford Parks,
We got it.
and how many over Durham Harrison, how many at the Upper North? They could come in and tell us what they have and what they don't have. That's what I'm
Jerome
saying.
Harrison
Right,
and
let's-
TVS jungle gyms are not theirs.
Yes.
So it's not in their jurisdiction, just so you know.
All right.
I just want to ask Steve something.
Mm-hmm.
So the playground over at STW that is part of the proposal, right? Or no?
Well, it's not, I didn't include it in the
Okay,
motion.
but anyways, I just want to ask the question though. That's because the camp is there, right?
Yes.
And you don't want to bus the camp to somewhere else, right? That's all inclusive, like the camp doesn't leave that
They
area,
walk over to
right?
and
We
use our
can't.
Board of Ed.
We
Right.
could bus them if we wanted
Because
to.
I always thought, I mean, about me dating myself, I always thought the camp was at NBIS.
There used to be 3,
It used to
NBIS,
be, wasn't it?
yeah,
Okay.
NBIS, and Totucket Valley, and Park and Recreation.
Okay, all right, that's where I was getting mixed up, as where it's.
But NBIS and the TVS are run by the Board of Education.
Yeah.
And the one at STW is run by the Park and Rec.
What's the difference?
Different
FRC, which was the Family Resource Center, which was run by the Park and Rec.
No, I know, but what's?
So the kids' summer camp has always been, to my knowledge, a park and recreation camp activity. Since I've been on the commission, which is a little over 5 years, it's almost been doubling every year. And we're running out of room. And the worst part about it is, again, back to COVID, parents have a harder time trying to find a babysitter or a daycare facility, where our resources that we provide for the residents and non-residents of North Branford allow that affordability to come. And then we do they have field trips sometimes, they have entertainers that come, but yet back to the pavilion's needs and the playscape needs, you have seniors and these children, upwards of over 200 a day, interfering and making it, space is being limited. These kids would like to be outdoors, but yet you get into this culture that we're in where someone's always to blame except your own. So if the sun's too hot, there's no pavilion outside. If they get hurt on the pickleball courts, it's because there's no playscape on the grass with playground-friendly mulch. We're never going to win. We're just trying to provide the best that we could with what we're given, and this is the best solution, especially with COVID. Because we were it, and back to the point, I'm not trying to beat the dead horse, but we don't fall under the state of Connecticut in the Board of Ed, where we can't allow outsiders in when COVID was having some type of restriction. We were the hub. Park and Recreation Building was the hub. Vaccine clinics, informational clinics, food distribution, but that doesn't allow anyone to come into the building if we don't have anywhere else somewhere to go. That's why we think this is a viable option. God forbid there's something else that breaks it up.
Are you funding additional through ARPA to do this stuff?
Yes, sir.
But I
I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So is my motion to table
Yeah.
It
seconded
died.
or not seconded?
It wasn't seconded.
So
Unfortunately,
that's
we're still in
Just
discussion.
for housekeeping measures, that's all.
Okay, so I would like to amend my motion. So I would like to amend my motion to add an additional $50,000 to fund a study of all of the parks and recreation areas. This would be added to the $25,000 that's already in the budget, so they would have a total of $75,000.
I'll second that motion. You made the motion.
So we have a motion that's been amended by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Mace.
Yeah.
This motion will allow for the pavilion to be attained and for some of the upkeep and upgrades in that particular area, as well as suffice a study for once and all with a plan. And we'll work with our town planner, we'll work with our town manager, we'll work with council on this plan as well as our department heads so that we can stop throwing darts in the dark and we can figure out where the hell we want to be as a town.
So that when it goes out to bid, Rose, that it specifies that they study every parks and recreations, field and everything else, and come back with a specific report.
I believe that's what the bid specs did, the original.
I can
So it-
support that there.
So it won't take, it shouldn't take that long because we already had bid specs done.
Yeah, we
so
have
they
some
can-
things,
So we can, we just have
open them or-
to, we just have to look at it to
Yeah.
see once, if anything has to be adjusted.
So is the
They will come in with the
$50,000 is the $50,000 plan for all the fields, or is it for the town design?
Well, it's,
Parks
so-
and Rec.
it's Parks and Rec, it looks at all of the parks and fields, so it encompasses
Yeah.
everything.
So it's not the town plan then?
Well, it could encompass lack of a better terminology,
Part of the study.
a recreational center of town. You know,
Right.
we're never going to have a traditional, town center where there's the church here on this end and there's the town all over here. But essentially what a town center would be for North Branford would be a recreational area that's been denoted the center of town. And then at some point in the future.
I mean, it would look at
maybe put a
Auger Park, it would look
So the
at.
$50,000 that you're
75
talking
would be
about
actually.
is for planning the parks?
It's in
Not-
addition
Nothing
to
with the town, like just the parks?
See, I
It's
would
in
like to
addition
see
to
it
the
look, include
25,000.
the town. Are we gonna have a town
That's what I
center?
thought
Is it
Tom was
gonna-
talking
Right,
about.
well,
Well, yeah, it'll look at Auger Park, it looks at Swycheck, it
Let's
looks
try to
at,
get this in.
right.
It looks at all of them.
Because we could look at someday a town hall over there. It doesn't have, it might not even be in our lifetime.
That's what I
but,
would like to see in this plan.
Well, that
Company
would-
four.
Well, that was already done. Maybe they can just
Four.
incorporate what was already done
Yeah, it was
into.
done.
Yeah, you know
I
what I
don't think
mean,
you'd still
company
do that,
four
but yeah.
someday might, move, if we could get it to move and be in the middle of the town, between
But I
the
don't think that's
towns.
Rose's intention. It's
No.
for Parks and Recreation to decide North Farms Park, Jerome Harrison, Norford, Stanley T. Williams, Totucket Valley, the fields in the back, to see what money it needs to either upgrade them?
No.
Or knock them down and remove the
Vince,
baseball fields or
no.
whatever?
The purpose of this,
I'm asking
I'm
Rose.
telling you.
Well, tell Rose
Okay,
what the
thank you.
purpose is.
I'm
I didn't
telling-
make the motion, tell Rose.
The purpose of a study would be to have a plan, a trajectory towards unifying the town and having a recreational area, which is similar to a town center. And then, yes, we can certainly add into that the viability of someday building a town hall there that's not this particular building, and pantry and, you know, ambulance, the company
Okay.
4. So yeah, so the goal is with this particular study, at least to get a step closer to something that is viable, not pie in the sky, but something viable, a step towards some semblance of unity of Northwood and North Branford and having an identity as a town center.
Does this
Is that
drawing
your,
give us?
is that your motion, Rose?
Wait a minute. Steve, you might know this. Does this study give us a drawing?
Yeah, so, just, if I may, this study is gonna encompass all the parks, all the fields, any open space that we list, right?
Yeah.
When I say we, I mean the town, you're the ultimate, whatever you want written in there. It'll assess the trajectory of where the town's going. Is soccer growing? Is field hockey growing? Is ice hockey growing? And maybe, badminton is declining, so let's take 2 of those fields away. Maybe you wanna consolidate, have 2 turf fields, and then you guys can open up all these parks and these open space and build whatever you want, wherever you want, and it'll say, a bank might be a viable spot for this location moving forward down the road. So I'm using a bank, so I'm trying not to alienate any specifics, entities. So if you want to incorporate landscaping, put landscaping in there. If you want to incorporate, there was a study done 16 years ago just with the Swycheck Park property. I only know because it's on Jesse's desk every day that we look at the POCO map. So whatever you guys want, or add alternate and incorporate what you guys want on the town side and see where the numbers come in. If it's something you all want to do, you have the fields study, and then you could add, if you like the pricing, you could move forward with them doing the whole.
I would rather see a plan that includes the town, including, are we someday going to have a town center? If we're going to spend all that money on a plan, I think it should be the town plan, not just the recreation. Yes, I agree, maybe it would include having a walking trail from Northford to North Branford, but what in the plan could include the center of this town? And what
Your
should
vision
be
is
in
a
that
good
center?
Start.
I think that, if we're going to spend that kind of money, why not do the job the right way?
I agree.
I agree.
That's what I think that's where my
Like,
thought
it sounds
was.
like, right, the way the motion is, it's only for recreation.
That's why I asked the question, because
Yeah.
it sounds to me like it's gonna be a $50,000 plan on how to go over all the fields and figure out how
Yeah,
to spend
I'd
a
rather-
bunch of money on a bunch of fields. So it's
No,
gonna be a money-spending plan.
Well, we can amend the motion to read differently. I think
I
we
like
all,
to hear the new
we
motion
all
that
agree
you're talking about.
that we want this to be towards
Because that's
not
not
just
what Rose's
fields, but
motion was, but go ahead.
a recreational spot. I don't want to explain
Well,
this here.
So I
it's
can
a
amend my
start.
second.
I can't
Why don't
motion,
you just
guys.
Because
I'm
they
withdraw
not-
that
haven't
motion
done
and
it.
come up
This is
with
a
a new one.
start. This is a good starting point,
Yeah.
a reference for us
That's the
to
goal.
get there. If this is just strictly for the park and recs, well, okay, it's a start. Then we need to have then another study for your town hall, or whatever you want. Maybe they can do a town center up at STW. Who knows? Is it big enough?
Rose, you want to clarify the motion?
So Steve, what were the range of those quotes that we had?
68 to 110,
Okay,
but some of the 110 ones have buildings.
okay. So the 50,000 probably is not enough money.
The 50,000 would encompass the fields and their use, looking more at how many times baseball's played.
Right, so the 50 added on to the 25 only gives us 75, which is the low end of the bids. where the higher end of the bids did more of the comprehensive study that
Which is what
we're
we
talking
want.
about, which is
We
what
want a
want.
comprehensive
Can we
study.
do this, can we separate the two?
Yes.
Because I still have questions, like, Steve, the 250 has still got me, I just looked up some prices on
So the-
pavilions. Does that include, like, the new backstop for the baseball field, fence work?
Yes, yes.
I just feel like we're voting blindly on this, and I don't
So-
have all the details of the work that's gonna be done.
So if this, take ARPA out, if we were, and take the school projects, if we were gonna come to you with capital improvement, every field needs major work. But if I focus on STW and that baseball field that we're talking about moving, I think there's like a 2-foot gap between the concrete pole that holds the backstop. So that's gonna come offline anyway. So when we talk to Public Works Director, and I don't want to speak for him, I thought he said it wasn't as big of a deal as one would think for the backstop, because it's
Yes,
pretty much
it
almost
was drawn.
out of the ground already.
For-
And then it's just, it's not clay like wall field.
So they would use the same backstop, or they put in a new one?
No, they have to do a
I
new
can't
one.
speak for them, but
Okay.
I didn't think it needed an upgrade. I think it was just, needs to get reset, so it's coming out anyway.
So the 250 is not just the pavilion, it's also relocating the
Yeah.
field. And I believe the relocation of the field was estimated somewhere around $50,000-$60,000. Or was it a little bit less than that? Not exactly. So I'm going to withdraw my motion, the amended motion, so I'm withdrawing everything.
Sorry.
I remove my I withdraw my second.
There's nothing
Okay.
to discuss right now, that's why.
So I'm going to make a motion to allocate $75,000 from ARPA to add to the $25,000 in our CIP budget, to do a comprehensive town study, which includes all of the recreation areas, fields, open space, but it's a comprehensive town study that will be done.
How much time, Rose?
Well, we have to get the bid specs together, and it has to go out to bid, and then it comes back, and so, I don't know realistic how long. I mean, it could take 90 days, it could take 3 or 4 months, I'm not
I'll
sure.
second the motion to spend up to $100,000 for the comprehensive study of all the park and rec fields in North Branford and Northford.
Well,
Come back with
it's,
recommendations.
well, it's a townwide study.
Yeah, North Branford and Northford.
But not just the fields, you're saying.
Right, it's-
Town stuff. Buildings.
Any open spaces.
Mhm.
With a drawing,
Yep,
with a
they-
conceptual drawing, a vision of what this would look like.
Correct.
Yeah.
We can change it as the years go by, just change it, after.
Right, Yeah.
Google.
it's a
Yeah, I
working
mean,
document.
Yeah, I honestly think that this is so long overdue. You go into any other area, there's some semblance of an adoption agreement or a summary plan description or something that is a guidance. School, I mean, you don't go into, second grade and say, well, we're gonna teach them maybe letters this year, and then maybe we'll teach them some math and rubric of what you're gonna do. We don't have a rubric of what we're doing, we're just throwing money against the wall and seeing what, well, let's do this here, we want to do that, and it's very sporadic. Maybe when we talk about revenue, we want to have revenue coming to the town, we want to talk economic development. ARPA may be the benefit that we have, the gift that we've been given to actually finally build out a proper plan, so that after this council is done and the next council is elected, and one after that, we're at
They have a
least
plan.
going towards what the vision for this town, some semblance of vision for this town. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to build police stations in one area and ambulance companies in a swamp and, libraries in two sections of the town, and, it's.
And we don't want it to go
We
in
don't
a
want it to-
drawer.
No, we want it to actually be a
And that's what
living
A lot of our
document.
studies end up doing,
Because we don't do them
forget
right.
about it.
We want this to be a living document and a plan for the future, for the trajectory of this town.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to be. Much like they did with Hudson Yard in New York City. This is what it's going to be, and I watched it outside my office every day. Buildings are going up, buildings are up. They didn't just say, oh, we're gonna put a building there and there and there as they're going along. They knew what those buildings were gonna look like and how it was gonna go up, what was gonna be there. So let's do that. Let's start building this the right way. Let's start doing it the right way. Okay? All right, so we have a motion?
Yep.
Yeah, I
We
second
have a
it.
second?
Yeah.
Do we have any other discussion? All right, then I'm gonna call for,
Hold
Oh,
on. So this is, you just
Okay.
added $75,000 to the $25,000 and added to the 250.
No.
No.
I
Withdrew.
So the
Those-
250 is withdrawn.
withdraw.
That's all
So this is
withdrawn.
strictly
This is just-
$75,000 to add
Correct.
to the $25,000 to do the study.
Correct.
Yeah, it's $100,000 all in. It's 75 from ARPA, 25
Okay.
we've already allocated, $100,000, which we may end up increasing to actually build a plan.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna figure out what we want to do here versus making decisions one at a time. I think everyone agrees that's probably a smart way to go
And I
about
agree
things,
with
right?
Tom, it should be with drawings.
Yeah, there was drawings on the last one that they did that were, over budget that we,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
their whole proposals and everything.
So do we have any other discussion?
They come in and do a presentation, is that what you're saying?
Well,
Well,
Figure that
it's a
out.
bid
Like a
process.
video?
Well, it's a bid
We'll figure
process,
that out
so we
with
have
it.
to wait
Yeah.
and see when the bids come
Yeah.
in.
Be like the website
we're
ones.
not. I'm gonna plan. Okay. Why don't we do a roll call vote on this as well?
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Zampiano?
Yes.
Councilor Abelson?
No.
Councilor Angeloni?
Yes.
Councilor Diamond?
Yes,
Councilor Grodd?
Abstain.
Councilor Mace?
Yes.
And Councilor Caluccio?
Yes.
Okay, yeses have it.
And we're gonna hold off on doing
Yeah.
anything pavilion, playgrounds.
I think
We're gonna
that's a
just-
smart idea.
Until after the study.
Yep.
I mean, the ARPA money's there and.
There, we have
so-
till 24 to allocate.
Right.
We don't need to, we've done a lot tonight. We
So-
spent a lot of money.
Can I bring up one other thing, because it's on here?
Mhm.
I have a concern and I have a lot of questions about this advanced manufacturing facility. To me, it's like up in the air. I would think the Board of Ed would come to us with, I was in education for a long time. I'd like to see the curriculum. I'd like to see what this building is going to look like. I'd like to know where this building is going to be exactly located.
You'd like to see a plan?
A business
Yeah, I'd like
plan.
to see a plan, but I would like to see a curriculum. I'd like to know, I keep hearing.
Oh, you asked for $200,000
I know, but I don't, I know, but I'd like to see.
Well, I think it's still
I
evolving.
think
yeah.
it's, but to come to us for money and
Yeah.
not come with anything specific, I have a lot of, I think the Board of Ed should come and make a presentation to the town council. Obviously, it's gonna be a town building. I don't know, I just have a lot of questions
I
about it.
think
And I
it's for the
think before they're
kids.
gonna keep coming and asking for money, would you come with some specifics? Something, even in writing. I don't think I've ever seen anything in writing, unless I missed it. I don't.
Well, Scott did have a handout when he presented
But it
in
wasn't,
December.
but it wasn't very clear.
substantive.
No, Marie, he did explain it. He actually, it's for the kids who aren't going to college.
I understand
So
that,
it's-
I know
but it's-
that, I
it's
know
for them
that.
to sit
But I-
there and
I
get
still think- we have kids
educated
who don't
so
go
they
to
can
college
get
in
into
every
the
school.
workforce right
I'd like to see
away.
the difference in that, okay?
Yeah.
Well, he needs to put a business plan together.
He didn't have the machinery included in the price because I had asked him that,
Right.
right? I'd also like to know what the updated numbers are of kids that graduate that go to college, because we also need to look at being fiscally responsible as to how many kids we're actually looking at that will actually
He
participate in
gave
this,
us
have an interest
approximately
in it.
30.
What's that?
It was approximately 30.
Yeah, so we have to look at how much money we're spending for 30 students, and what that comes out to per student, and make sure that we're making
Well, that goes back
decisions
to the business
responsibly.
plan.
Those are the issues that I have.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I-
it's very difficult to make decisions up here without having some semblance of
I know there was a
trajectory
handout, but it
plan.
wasn't very
No.
clear.
No, it was.
Okay.
a lesson.
Are there any other business within the way of item 2, ARPA, that we need to conduct this evening? I think we're going to table the rest, well, not table, we're going to hold off spending any more money tonight and start to look towards having some idea of what we're doing. The plan. That's the key word tonight, people, plan. All right, I'm going to move on to item number 3, discussion of future meeting dates. I think we're probably a little atrophied from this right now. We're going to take a little break, go into budget season. So I believe we'll probably revisit this in May. Does that sound like a good idea for everyone?
Sounds like a plan.
A plan? How do you guys feel about that? May? All right, Mike,
We
make
may
a
have
note.
more information at
Yeah.
that time regarding
Yeah.
the,
That's our buzzword, a plan. We're gonna make that our word for the year. All right, Mike, we're gonna bring this into May. All right, I will entertain a motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Zampano, seconded by Councilor Diamond.
yeah.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Everyone say plan.
Plan.
Okay.